We're in week 4 and players are having some of the worst starts I've ever seen. Is it time to press the panic button? We'll talk about that and more in today's action packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Sorry, I was jamming out. Welcome. Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we are your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Matthew On A. You can find me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at Matthew_On A. And if you're listening on audio, my last name is spelled A as in Apple, H as in Harry, N as in Nancy, E as in Echo. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell below to subscribe to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Also, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you may listen. And if you want more than what we offer in this 30-minute podcast, please check out the Diamond Club on Subtext. The link is in the description of all the shows. You'll get waiver wire rankings, prospect call-ups when they're relevant, and so much more. Plus, you'll be able to ask us questions directly. So please check us out. You get free 2 weeks. I promise you won't want to leave. But with that being said, guys, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. And we got another great one. Sorry I didn't get one out to you yesterday. Had a funeral. Was, with Dom. He had a loss in his family. So I was there, and it was too much. So I just wasn't able to get, an episode in. I apologize, but I am going to get one at the end of the week. I might drop 2 on Friday, depending on what I do. I might do another streamers episode. We'll see. So we'll stay tuned for that. But yeah, we got a good episode today. A lot of question marks on a lot of players, and it's getting a little nerve wracking, and I am ready to press some panic buttons. We'll see as we start breaking down, stats and whatnot. What are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? But yeah, let's get in it. Let's open up with some okay guys I'm not scared of, and then we'll kind of roll down. And we'll start Randy Arozarena. Randy is having a very slow start. Right now on the season, he's had 60 at bats. He's had 8 runs. He's had a double, 2 bombs, 5 ribs, 3 stolen bases. He's batting 183 on the year. I'm trying to pull up like his, last week performance real quick because, I don't get that to so much there. But anyway, so Randy really didn't have a great week either. Through last week, he had 2 runs, no bombs, a rib, and stolen base, batted 130. So it doesn't seem like there's been any really like bright spot for him. And it seems like it's getting worse. But I don't know if I'm really ready to give up. You don't go from what you did last year with 551 at bats, 95 runs, 19 doubles, 3 triples, 23 bombs, 83 ribs, 22 stolen bases, and batting 254 to this putrid performance. There's probably a lot better time to come. He's even had a slow start in spring too. We don't take it too seriously, but when we start, quantifying, okay, what's going on and like how are we, what's the evidence behind him being bad and that it may continue? You look at spring and you factor it in, it really didn't look good. He's striking out a lot in spring. He's striking a lot out now, and I don't know when he's going to get things better. I don't know, if we're in for just a rough, bumpy first half, maybe first month. What is going on? I'm gonna look up if he's like a slow starter to begin with, but like ultimately, like if we don't start seeing some better performances soon, we're gonna really have to, start smacking that panic button and see if we might be able to move on from him essentially. But I mean, there is no indicator that he is a slow starter. Even last year, he started off the year with batting 327, then 259, and 267, and then July was a really rough month at 153. So like he started off just fine and performing. So this is a little more on the concerning alarm like side. I am alarmed. I'm at a 5 on the Richter scale right now. If I really had to throw a number out there, this proceeds for another like week or two, I'm gonna be at a full blown 8, and we're gonna be saying, hey, we need to, kind of sell. But it's a matter of what we're willing to give. Are we willing to give up for what we're going to get offered, essentially? Um, I don't even know if I'm going out there and buying low on this dude. Honestly, it's just one of those things where he's at like an all-time low. But I mean, the only good thing I could say is I think there's better to come. It's just a matter of when and how long you're willing to wait. And we're gonna have to factor that all in and see how bad can it go. But we'll see. I'll let you know when enough's enough and we need to press that drop button. But I don't think that'll be the case, truthfully. Let's move on. Let's talk about Pablo Lopez. Pablo Lopez, another one that's off to a really slow start. There's a lot of dudes that I just couldn't. I need to do 3 episodes if I really were to get into how many guys are starting off bad. Like it's ugly this season. But Pablo Lopez, who I had ranked pretty high, I think like 13 going into the season. Right now, he has 16 innings pitched. He has 16 strikeouts. It's the only positive news you're going to get right now. Um, he's batting a four. He has an ERA of 46, a WHIP of 12, like a 1.200. It's like it's ugly. The only positive light of this thing of his poor performance is his FIP, fielding independent pitching. So if he had an average defense behind him, what would it look like? And it's a 3.59, which hopefully everything kind of returns to the mean in those regards. Like I'm praying it does. So the thing is too, like I'm on his baseball savant, so we're gonna get a little bit deeper on him, right? So his chase percentage is really nice. The whip rate is pretty good. Not getting the Ks. He's walking a little bit more dudes, but his extension looks great. But he's giving up hard hits. He's allowing guys to get barreled on him. Average exit velocity isn't great, and his fastball velocity is what it is. It's the same. So like that's the only positive note there. But like there's some things that are just, not going well that I think will improve. Being that you're looking at his xERA to 3.54, his max EV from last year is right on par with this year. The average exit velocity is on par. So like, you know, it's not like there's any like drastic change that are screaming at me in the numbers that are just like, okay, dude, like there is something really wrong and there's maybe something mechanical or injury that's sitting behind the scenes that's causing these issues ultimately. So Pablo Lopez right now, I'm going to say, hey, hold out. He's somebody I might try and go and acquire, maybe upgrade. Just I don't know who I'm going to go out there and get and who's going to be willing to really give him up and what that price is going to look like. But if I can go up a tier, I'm not mad. Right now, nothing off the top of my head. Maybe I'll include him tomorrow in more of a buy low, sell high situation. We'll see. We're going to move on to a little bit bigger pitcher name, and that's George Kirby. And George Kirby is another one that's starting off really bad. And I know there's a lot of like, you either love him or hate him because of how high he was being drafted this year. And right now, everybody who said, oh, he's not worth, an SP1, you're probably like, oh, I told you so. But I don't think this is like legitimate, right? One, Kirby has ultimate control. The dude can place the ball wherever he wanted. He could probably, knock an apple off my nose and, get it as close as you humanly can without even touching it. I'll just feel the gusting wind go past. But anyway, so far on the season, he's had 20 innings pitched. He has 19 Ks, which is really nice, actually. He has an ERA of 6.64. He has a WHIP of 1.328. His FIP is a 3.08, which is pretty good. The velocity, nothing looks out of place there. One thing I will say with George Kirby is, he's kind of doing his thing. The Ks are like whatever, not getting the wisp, but chasing's pretty much all right. Fast velocity is the same. His xERA is a 3.42, which is really, you know, kind of like encouraging along with his FIP, things like that. You know, he's actually on a low for exit velocity in terms of, average and max. Last year, his max EV, I mean, there's still time, was a 115. His highest right now was a 111. His average right now for exit velocity is an 87 versus last year and the year before, 89. Like things are like positive in those regards. He's just not putting, his money where his mouth is. Also, too, you look at like his pitches individually and what's, not being successful that was successful last year. His slider is up like a whole run. Um, you know, Even his sinker's getting hit a little bit more. And, you just look at it and even his four seam fastball is up about like a third of a run. So like he's just getting hit around a little bit where like, okay, there's things that gonna return to the mean with George Kirby. So I'm not hitting the panic button on him or Pablo Lopez. They're about like at a 3-ish, but I'm not ready to like ship him off or allow him to be bought yet. I'm hanging on to him if I have him. And one thing I will say is if I have George Kirby, I mean, if I don't have George Kirby, I would go out and try and acquire him and see if we can get somebody might be regretting that draft pick and be willing to move down a tier just to get him. So before we move on, I do want to say we have, a whole bunch of good names coming up. Josh Hader, Paul Goldschmidt, what to do with these guys, where I'm at with them. And yeah, well, there's some big question marks around the both of them. So stay tuned for that. Guys, we're talking Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers instead of battling thousands of other players, including sharks or pros. You pick more or less than 2 to 6 player stats, projections, and watch the winnings roll in. Exploring my skills on Prize Picks this season adds an extra layer of excitement to daily fantasy sports. With just a few taps, you can transform $10 into $1,000 if you've got the skills. Prize Picks is incredibly user friendly. I can make my selections and submit my entries in less than 60 seconds. And as the host of Locked On Fantasy Baseball, I actually got some really good picks for you. Offer Jesus Luzardo to have higher than 1.5 walks in his next start. Offer Zach Geloff to have higher than zero point 0.5 ribs in his next outing. And offer Julio Rodriguez to have zero point 0.5 runs in his next game. Download the app today and use the code Locked On MLB for first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use the code Locked On MLB for first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks. And guys, we're also talking Monopoly Go. I've been told I'm pretty competitive, and I know if Dom was here, he'd say the same. So I have a competitive side. We all do, right? And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I love Monopoly. I play with my family all the time. And I'm sure you've heard of it. It's downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not but one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards. It's crazy locations, build amazing cities, bring in the big money. But the best part is messing with your friends, right? Because you gotta troll your friends. I can charge them rent on iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly. But now I can also rob their vaults for my riches, and the leaderboard shows me that I'm the best one, best Monopoly tycoon, hands down. But not just my competitive side that loves it. You can also team up with friends and people all around the world. It's time for tournaments and earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now for free at App Store or Google Play Store. And guys, it's Locked On NFL mock draft, NFL mock draft live on April 17th at 7 Eastern, streaming on Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or free on Amazon Fire TV channel app. Find the ultimate 6 episode series on April 17th at 7 Eastern to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise with live reactions from local college experts and even fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL mock draft on April 17th at 7 Eastern, streaming live on Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or free on Amazon Fire TV channel apps. Also, guys, introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. This season, as the season unfolds, you want to be with us, right? Rely on our dynamic content, get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call-up notifications, injury actions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of fantasy leagues by joining the Diamond Club on Subtext, where your path to victory begins. Subscribe now, elevate that fantasy baseball experience to new levels. It's 2 weeks free, so give us a shout. I promise you won't want to leave us after the fact. All right, let's hop back into some baseball. I'm sorry for, a lot of self-promoting, but, it's how we keep the lights on here at Locked On. But yeah, I want to talk about Josh Hader here. Josh Hader is having a really bad start, honestly. It's kind of like, oh boy. But hey, nobody's immune to the new team, slow start kind of rule for me, right? Now, do I think that he's going to continue this bad play? Absolutely not. I mean, I'm totally going to go trying to grab him wherever I humanly can, but I think there's better times to come. So there is some things that stick out for me when it comes to Josh Hader and his total stats for the season right now: 7 innings, 11 Ks, a 9.39 ERA with a 1.696 WHIP. His FIP though is a 3.62. That's encouraging. Here's some things I'm seeing. Right, last year, right in 2023, which was a fantastic year, first full year with the Padres, he had 11 runs. He gave up 11 runs the whole year. Um, 11, 8 earned runs all year. He gave up 8 so far this season. That's kind of ugly. He's already given up a home run. He's only given up 3 last year. He's doing things that I just are uncharacteristic for Josh Hader, right? But nobody's immune to this. He's 30, but I'm not going to hold that against him. It's more of Josh Hader's on a new team. And quite honestly, too, he's now on Houston, and there's a lot of expectations. There's a lot of strong teams, not like he wasn't when he was on the Padres, playing against the Dodgers quite frequently and whatnot. Josh Hader is just dealing with a whole bunch of stuff, and I feel like there's positive time to come, right? So Hader is going to essentially, you know, figure things out. There's nothing that's uncharacteristic about him this year, right? Like his velocity's there, the whiffs are there. He's walking guys a little bit more, but again, that's based off of just uncomfortableness. His ground ball rate is fantastic. Fastball velocity is great. Now, the things that are kind of down are like his chase rate isn't looking hot, which is just like, I didn't explain it, but I've mentioned it a few times. Essentially, when guys will go and essentially chase a ball that's clearly outside of the strike zone. And the average velocity is down, right? So average exit velocity, right? So I mean is up. So he's 90 right now on the season, and last year was 87. His max EV is down, which is good at 109, whereas last year was 112. These things matter. Um, his xERA is a 4.49, which is not on par with his FIP of three and change. So like things are like, but I think there'll be a positive regression. You can't keep a guy like Hader down. So with that, I just say, don't panic. Just keep a deep breath. Try and acquire him if you can. Don't give up him if you have him. Let's move on. By the way, Hater about like a 3-ish, 3.5 max in terms of panic button worry meter. All right, Paul Goldschmidt. Goldie is not looking good. There's a lot of red flags going on. Dom and I called it going into the season that we should probably avoid him. His spring was not wonderful. He batted a 128. He struck out 20 times, only 6 walks, which is very uncharacteristic. He really didn't put the bat to the ball at all, like straight up, like 47 at bats and only what, 6 hits. That's atrocious, like absolutely atrocious. And it's carrying over into the season, right? Like he's batting 183 on the season. His OBP is a 290. His slug is a 233. His OPS is a 523. Okay. He's already struck out 20 times to 8 walks. That's ugly. He has 1 home run, 7 ribs. He's only managed to get 11 hits out of 60 at bats. Like this is ugly. Like there is a lot of problems going on with Goldie, and I think the bat speed decrease is seriously playing in the thing. I'm at like an 8 with Goldschmidt right now. If I can get any kind of value for Goldschmidt, I'm totally, totally, totally trying to move on if I can get something in return. Like, I don't know, like Vinny P is kind of heating up, but you might be able to sell this guy, Paul Goldschmidt, and sneak out Vinny P. Tristan Casas, who's also not doing great. I don't know if I'm trading for him, but maybe I include him in a trade with Goldschmidt and something to get him in a bigger counterpart to kind of like sneak the deal and finish it away. I might be trading away Goldschmidt right now as best as I can because he's not a drop for what you paid for him. But ultimately, you kind of like got to get something for him if you're really freaking out. I don't know what I'm doing with him, like in terms of I think he's a flat out like trade away, not drop, but trade away because you paid way too much draft capital for him. So, time to hit the panic button. If I had a like your iPhone alarm alert, I'd be hitting it right now. All right. Before we move on, and I talk about Zach Eflin, Max Fried, Xander Bogarts, and even Nick Castellanos and Gleyber Torres, I have one last ad break for you, and I promise that's it. Guys, we are talking FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. It's $150, win or lose, right? Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam ducks. Place your bets on your favorite teams and make it extra interesting, and place a couple bets live same game and make it a parlay too. Make it real fun, right? Make a couple things go on and win some big bucks, or even bet against the team you hate the most to give make sure that it's a little extra since there's nothing else on TV. It's really great watching that team lose, right? So bet on everything from slap shots, home runs, slam dunks, all in the app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit fanduel.com/locked on and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And all right, guys, we got baseball here on out, and we're talking Zach Eflin. And Eflin here, he's another one that I really wasn't too crazy about going into this year. I really wasn't buying the full blown breakout that we saw, right? Like last year was incredible, right? It's kind of what I was waiting for him to do his whole career, especially I was watching him on the Phillies for like the last 7 years, and he could never do it. And now he has this fantastic year where, he had a 3.5 ERA, career ERA year, career strikeout year, also career innings. And you know, even his FIP was backing it up. So it kind of makes things like a little bit more realistic. And he had a whip of 102. Like those are all fantastic. And you get to this season, right? It's only 23 innings pitched, but it is a significant amount and something that we can quantify, right? And he's had 23 innings pitched. He has 20 strikeouts, which is not on par with with a K per nine. He has a 4.63 ERA. He has a FIP of 4.13. His WHIP is a 1.200. Like things are not looking nice. Then you go over to his baseball savant page, and there's also like a lot of blue. You want red, right? The only thing he's doing well is his walk percentage is okay, right? Ks are down, whiffs are down, which is really bad. Even chase is like a little bit above average, nothing great. His average exit velocity is down. Fastball velocity is not great either at a 91.8. Like his xERA, it's like average. Like it's better, it's a lot better, but at the same time, I'm like, oh boy. So like his max EV so far on the season is a 114.5, even though last year was a 115. But his average exit velocity of 89.1, that's something that's not great either. That's up to 2 miles. Like he's giving up things, right? And then also too, like barrel percentage is 8 to 9. That's pretty much on par. But like, just it's not pretty. It's not pretty. And I'm trying to do a little bit deeper dive for you too. Like, okay, his sinker right down a whole mile, and it's being hit at a 3 batting average on that pitch alone is a 333, where last year was a 259. His curveball is the same, actually a little bit faster this year, and it's doing a 240 batting average, whereas last year was a 185. His cutter's actually a lot more successful this year, which is good. You want to see that, right? Some improvement on some pitches, and maybe he's just having some bad luck. But here's the thing: I'm not really like thrilled to have Zach Eflin, but I'm also not trading him. I don't even know if I'm going out and acquire. He's like a wait and see kind of type player, right? So like for now, like I'm not, and I'm also not like enticed to go and get him. So this is how I'm approaching it. He's about a 5. So with a 5 being said, you kind of just got to be like, okay, it's a waiting game. You're not going to try and acquire him. You're not going to go and try and get rid of him. You just sit back, see what happens over the next couple of weeks, and then we'll come back and revisit this topic. Or you can join us on the Diamond Club and ask me a question, and we can see what's there in a couple of weeks if I don't bring him up. All right, we're gonna go talk about Max Fried now. Max Fried, he's another one having a nice slow start, unfortunately. Max Fried right now on the season, he has an 8.74 ERA through 11 innings pitched. He has 10 Ks. He has one of the fuggliest whips I've ever seen of a 1.853. Like, it is not fun to be a Fried owner right now. Now, the encouraging part is, and he's somebody I'm not really worried about. Had a nice start against Miami. He has Houston today when you're listening to this podcast. So that is the telling one. So like you can approach this two ways, right? We can go and we can say, hey, we're going to go and acquire him and take the risk at going into Houston, or we wait And if he performs, then probably the window's gone. But if he gets blown up, then we can go and acquire him for even cheaper. And then I think better times are to come with him. There's nothing that stands out in his, baseball savant page just screaming, Matt, you really need to be worried, right? Like things will return to the mean with him. You know, average exit velocities at a low at 83.5. Max EV is a little high, but that could be one bad pitch. Um, you know, his xERA is at 4.37, significantly literally cut in half, and I think that's going to come down too, along with his FIP being a little bit more in the same thing. It's kind of more viable that it will come down. You know, the barrels are a little up, which is whatever, but you know what? Like, I see a path for him to just be better, right? Like, it just some things you just got to say, okay, like the kid's got good stuff. The kid is great. It's also their only pitching option too, so they really can't afford for this kid to get hurt. But his curveball's being smacked around a little bit more and whatnot. So like, ultimately, just go and try and acquire Max Fried is essentially what I'm getting. He's like a 2 for me right now. We'll see. Another 2-3 bad starts on, including Houston, and then we can start hitting the panic button, but it may come. We'll see. Xander Bogaerts is up next. Xander, man, not doing good. I'm surprised. He's Mr. Reliable usually, and last year he performed even though it was his first year on that team. So I was very surprised he didn't continue. He's only 31 years old now. You know, with him having what 71 at bats, 13 runs, 2 doubles, a bomb, 7 ribs, a stolen base, batting 211. That's not wonderful, but at the same time, his walks and strikeouts aren't bad. He has 8 walks to 10 strikeouts. Now that's good. That means he's still like, has a good eye for the ball, which I mean, who would have ever thought he wouldn't, right? So, I think there is better times to come. Even last week was kind of rough. He was at like a, 103. I am at about a 4 with him right now. We'll see if it kind of increases or anything of the sort in that regards. Because I mean, if it does continue for another like 2-3 weeks, then we got to sit back and reevaluate. Hey, is this more of like, is he like on his way out? Like, what's the deal here? But like, he's never really been a slow starter. Even last year, he had a 308. So I mean, Xander Bogaerts is kind of tripping me out here and scaring me. But right now, he's not a drop. He's not a shy away from player either. I'm completely trying to get rid of off my team. But anyway, let's talk Nick Castellanos real quick. I want to sneak him in. So Nick is somebody that has had a really slow start last year, right? It literally took him until April 22nd last year to get his first dinger. And then he finally kind of went off. May was slow. He finished off the month of the fudge. I just got rid of the page I want to be. He finished off the month of April with 4, then May with 1, and then the rest of the year was just gold. So Nick just takes a little time to get going, and I understand too. He has no extra bases, right? So like he doesn't have a single double or triple this year. He doesn't have a bomb this year. He's batting 177. It looks really ugly. It does. Like it is ugly. But you know what, man? There is more time to come. And right now, he is a buy low for me. Get him dirt cheap and then just, cash in those winnings when he does hit. Last year, it's so funny. I traded for him on April 21st. And then he just went off for me after that. And I was 100% happy with Nick Castellanos. So maybe it'll be the same thing. Maybe I just got to go and trade for him again, and then he'll go off. So we'll see. Maybe I can get that done this weekend and see if I can go out and get him. But I'm 100% going out and trying to trade for Nick Castellanos. I am not ready to press the panic button. He does not go and have a playoff run like he did. The whole second half of the season was ridiculous. Like, there is no way you just say, okay, like, dude, he's lost it. That's just not humanly possible. The dude is too talented, too good. And right now, Nick Castellanos is a guy I'm going to acquire everywhere. So, with that being said, guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, and look out for tomorrow's episode. I'm hitting you with another waiver wire episode so that you can get some ads in before the weekend kicks, be ahead of the competition. We have some streaming episodes coming up for the weekend. So please stick around for that, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.